Welcome to the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Join your hosts, three-time WBFF world champions and WBFF royalty, Alicia Gowans and Stephanie Ayala McHugh, as we explore all things female health, training, competing, mindset, and living the fitness life every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the newest edition of the Queen Divas podcast, where we discuss all things health, fitness, and wellness with my beautiful co-host, Stephanie Ayala.
Hello.
So good to see your face yet again.
Oh, hello, everyone, and hello, Ali. It's always a pleasure to hop on here and see your beautiful face. And I hope all these listeners are also having a fantastic, spectacular day, wherever you may be. I'm in the USA, and Ali is in Australia.
So the land down there.
Two parts of the world. But yeah, today.
I must admit, it probably confuses people sometimes if they're watching this on YouTube, because it always pops up with Christos's name as my Zoom, because we always do this on Christos's computer. But the one thing that I do think is great is that now I share the last name. Woo! We're coming on for 1 month post our wedding soon. How fast is it?
How fast?
Babe,
oh my gosh,
seriously.
Crazy.
We just literally this week put out our invitations for Bubby's first birthday. What?
Oh my God, he's gonna be a year already.
We are only a few months away from him being 1 year old. And I put it out early because it's one of those situations where I just love, you know me, I'm an anal prepper. I love to be super organized. And it's going to be like the first birthday party of the year of the millennia. So
you're like the planner, I'm the procrastinator. So it's like you would plan it 3 months ahead. I would plan it like 2 weeks before. I'm like, all right, everybody, we're having this party.
put out the invites for that, and it was that moment of holy crap, where has the year gone already? We are already planning a mid-year event here because his first birthday's in June, but then it's also like, wow, I can't believe that we've got an almost
3 months ahead. We're nuts.
I know, right? I know. I had to, babe. I had to, because I had to plan.
It is his first birthday. I go big or go home, right? Like it's his first.
The balloons, to the cake, to the theme, to giving everyone that was being invited the opportunity to plan for time off and travel, because there are a lot of loved ones we have that are all over the state. They're obviously invited. And you know what? Like, I just wanted to get excited about it.
Of course, it's like your birthday. So now you get 2 birthdays in the year, right? Like, exactly. I guess for any other mother that's like kind of maybe celebrating their child's birthday too, you get presents like your birthday and your day, as well as hectic and stressful it may be leading into it. It's still a celebration for that day. And I'm glad you're inviting and gathering, family and friends. It's still kind of like getting back into the normality, right?
We don't get to have you guys present because way over here, which sucks eggs, but he is going to get time with Arnie, Stefan, Uncle Kerry very, very soon. He is to Orlando, which I'm so pumped for. And then again at World. So it will be like a belated first birthday when he gets to see you two by then.
Oh, he's going to get spoiled 3 times because I believe all the shows that I see him at, I'm just going to just shower him with gifts. So he's in for it, and I'm so excited to see him.
We're also planning in between now and his first birthday. We actually were just sending out invitations. My mother-in-law, who's just freaking a godsend. She's just honestly so amazing. She's organizing everything for this for us, for Bubby's christening. So we're going to be, going through the whole christening episode in the Greek Orthodox Church, which is just a whole event in and of itself, let me tell you.
Of course.
So that comes up in May. So we've got like his christening, and then 1 month later, it's his first birthday, and it's just all systems go this year. I'm loving this ride, Steph. Like I can't.
So
probably anyone listening to this can probably hear the smile on my face, but everything to do with this kid is just a whole nother level of joy for me. Even this week, he's been really sick. And so we've been actually battling a really sick household, and just, those moments where you can't do anything. It's a real helplessness state. But even in his sickest moment, this kid is just bundle of joy and constantly happy. And even through his snotty nose and his little whinge here and there, because obviously he's not feeling the best, he's still smiling his fool head off. And it's just
Can't
so
we all just
fun.
be a child and have that innocence? Like,
oh
man,
my God,
like,
right?
Oh, it's amazing to see it. And
so true.
You know, mentioning about like being under the weather, I feel like this is just across the globe. This is even happening here in the States. It's just everyone's somewhat under the weather with the cold, some flu symptoms. Heck, there's just so many viruses going around. And
oh my God,
just right now we have high pollen. I don't know about you guys, but this is the season for us to have extremely high pollen in the air. So we've been having extreme like symptoms.
Usually about 3 months or so behind when you guys have it. So you guys get it now, and then we get it usually coming into spring, which will be, you know, sort of
so we're entering spring now, and that's it's still not here. I'm just declaring it to be here already because I'm just tired of the cold, and I just literally hate being cold. So I just keep looking forward to the spring and the warmer weather. Here in Texas, we actually have a lot of like hail and tornadoes.
Yeah, so I know.
Like a little different, and this is kind of when it starts brewing up.
Clients telling me about all this hectic weather that's going on over that way at the moment, and it's like, wowza.
It's bizarre. Texas can have honestly 4 seasons in one day. And it's just kind of crazy, but it is what it is. And at least we're in that transition stage from winter into spring. So spring is coming up, like March is here, right? Like it's a new month, right? For all the listeners listening, it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of like reset. And for me, like if anyone like feels somewhat like me, if your mood gets affected by temperature and climate, we're looking ahead at some nice bright future days to make our mood much better. Because for me, if it's gloomy, cold, I'm like, I just get like in a, I'm gonna say bad mood because it doesn't upset me. It just puts me in a not as positive mood. You're just a little more gloomy weather. So I'm looking forward to, you know, obviously the warmer days. How about you guys? You guys are entering the fall?
We are, and it's just starting to get cooler. So, which I actually don't mind the break. My probably favorite seasons of any year are actually autumn and spring. So it's when it's not cold and it's not hot. It's that beautiful in between. So we are starting to experience that. But one of the things that sort of led us into talking about today's topic was the fact that we are starting to notice that there are periods of bugs and viruses, and we're just in that change of season, and we are going to be, you know, things that actually impact you and your overall health, immune system, but also your capacity to recover. So earlier this week, anyone following me would have even seen that in my story, I was in a ice bath. I was doing contrast therapy. So we're going to talk about contrast therapy as one of our recovery hacks today. But that was actually a direct result of a little flare up and a little tweak in my back from a massive session I did on the Monday. But if we were to analyze this in a big picture format, it wasn't necessarily just about that session on the Monday. It was about the fact that I had had 3 or 4 days of not so great sleep. We were, you know, starting to focus on controlled crying sleep coaching with Bubby to get him to sleep all the way through the night. And at the same time, he was sick. So I would suggest that my tweak has actually happened because there was some of these factors affecting my recovery and therefore affecting my performance and my output inside of the session. And I just had, you know, some fatigue in a probably semi-compromised loading state that, you know, led to a tweak. So what was I doing about it? Well, first things first. You know, I didn't have any NSAIDs or anything that was going to directly treat inflammation the day of the situation because I didn't want to down-regulate and mitigate my potential physiological adaptations from my training session. So I waited a whole day night and then took a whole bunch of anti-inflammatories and got myself into contrast therapy to try to treat the inflammation and try to, you know, basically put a squash on anything that might have been happening with, you know, chronic spasms and everything else in the back. And that led to me messaging Steph and being like, hey, babe,
we're going to talk about recovery.
An entire segment on recovery.
Oh man, and like everything you just
And how to
mentioned,
hack the hell out of
it's a
this.
ripple effect. Like it really
Yes.
is. I think that we don't pinpoint really what is the issue until like exactly what you did. You kind of like regressed on when this originally started, and it was the lack of sleep that caused you to not be able to perform even well in your sessions,
Yeah,
right? And then
100%.
not only do we put ourselves in a vulnerable position when we are lacking sleep, but we're also having less recovery throughout sleeping, right? Because we have less sleep. So the muscle isn't going to actually be as recovered, right? So what we're going to do is probably stimulate some injuries, right? Like actually promote some injuries because they're tighter. They're actually probably drier. We didn't sleep while they're dehydrated. Our levels of sodium might be a little bit off. So understanding sleep, not only have we had an episode of sleep, guys, we actually need to prioritize it for the actual recovery for.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually crucial. So, you know, I would definitely suggest anyone go back and listen to our sleep episode, because we go into this in, you know, the nth detail, and it is absolutely crucial for the body's ability to repair, recover, and actually build muscle tissue. But it's also a substantial contributor to immune health. So, you know, I think it's one of our biggest hacks. It's probably a recovery hack that we don't think about because it's something that you think, you know, you just do. It's just automatic, but it's not always optimized. So I think, you know, actually having that, like that in my list of recovery hacks, that comes in at like number 5.
That's up there.
It really should just be something you're systemically doing every day. Like it should be a focal point for you in your off season, on season, in your prep, like no matter what phase you're at, because it's that important. So getting enough sleep has the ability to reduce stress, but it also has the ability to, as we talked about, set you up for great performance in your next session. And also don't leave anything on the table that could be gained physiological adaptation wise from the session you've just done, because the biggest part of muscle growth occurs while you're actually sleeping.
Yes.
So it's so important, right? It's so important. If you're like literally going out partying and then expecting to still be able to pick up the gains from your session, right now they're significantly compromised.
And you know, those that actually get used to maybe lacking sleep, meaning, oh, I'm so used to just sleeping 5-6 hours.
5-6 hours, yeah.
The normal for me. Like that is just what my life is only allowing me to have. Well, let me tell you, you might be able to function, you might be performing A-okay and okay to you. But let me tell you, if you actually just increase that, your recovery will go up, you will notice your performance increase. And just like Elisa said, your immune system will definitely be also thanking you, because it's going to get stronger. It's going to get so much better.
And whenever I'm talking to anyone about this, like if I've got a you know, coaching conversation around recovery, one of the biggest things that we initially always talk about is sleep. And we discuss, you know, quite intimately their sleep environment and their bedtime hygiene. So, you know, what is the ritual for your evening? What does it look like? You know, how can you optimize it? You know, and again, go back to that episode, because we cover off everything from creating the dark environment, having white noise background, having, you know, even having the sound of water, believe it or not, even though you might think that might make you want to go to the toilet, that's actually completely relaxing and can get you into a deeper sleep state. It's having the right environment, you know, ambient from a temperature point of view to elicit deeper sleep cycles. But the thing for me, what I've noticed that I always have to keep quite an eye on, is keeping the consistent sleep schedule, even when I'm in my off season. So like what I mean by that is your wake and sleep time should be within an hour consistently, day in, day out, all year round, no matter what phase you're in. So for me, when I'm in a prep and I'm cutting, I'm definitely up and at 'em and out in the sunlight way earlier than what I am if I'm not. And I have to keep an eye on that. I have to make sure that I don't go, you know, swaying too far beyond that normal time frame for me, because then when it comes time to get into that prep mode, holy crap, it is so hard to do, and it does affect your overall sleep schedule. So, you know, over the last couple of years, I've gotten really focused on keeping consistency at all times of the year. And, you know, that looks different for everyone, but I would definitely suggest that that is something you look at. Am I going to sleep within the hour of the hour every night, no matter what? And am I waking up the same? Whether it's a weekday, weekend, whether you're in prep or in your off season, It's that adequate
and
sleep.
And not to dive in too much into the sleep here, but we are just bringing this up because of how important the recovery side, if we're talking about recovery, tips and hacks for you guys here, sleep is going to be at that forefront. But with sleep also, if let's say maybe we keep saying sleep, but you're not able to sleep, like, hey, well, I'm not able to really fall asleep, stay asleep, like it's interrupted. Guys, there's some hormonal imbalances, some cortisol levels being extremely maybe high and elevated where they're just not coming down and you're not allowing the body to go into that deep REM sleep. So maybe look into that if you are struggling with maybe sleeping and it's not the allocation of time that you're having issues with. Because I understand not everybody has maybe that time frame, but Ali is right. We can definitely pinpoint a schedule and make sure we go down at a certain time and you prioritize that nightly ritual and put yourself in a good scenario for, obviously the habits of going down in bed and getting some good night's sleep and be able to perform so much better. It's quite amazing. I mean, I'm always amazed at how I can't function without sleep. And then I get amazed. I'm like, how do people live like this? I'm like, how do they function without sleep? I just don't know.
Right? They're head cases. So one of the things that you will love to sort of, I guess, reflect upon is that we've given you something that costs nothing. That's a strategy that literally costs you physically no dollars or cents at all, but makes a whole lot of sense, right? So it's the first low-lying fruit that we discuss with a client when they raise issues of recovery. It's always that. The second thing that I will go into is, which again, no cost, no dollars, no cents, but makes a lot of sense, is hydration status. I even freaking
cheers to that, Ali, as we drink
absolutely imperative to repair and recovery that you are actually in a hydrated state. And I don't know how many people I have conversations with on the daily that I forget to drink. What do you mean you forget?
You drink sometimes.
You're basically a fucking plant walking around. Like, you need watering daily, on the hour of the day, every hour. Like, what are you talking about? You're essentially a fish. Like
75% of your body is made of water, y'all. So if you don't not just only hydrate, not only are your organs are going to downregulate, you're really actually going to start feeling some symptoms of what brain fog, lightheadedness, headaches. I mean, oh my God, that's even just like some of those symptoms. I mean, if we really go into the dehydration, we're going to go into cramps. I mean, it really affects your training by far because let's go into a session that we're going to break down that tissue, right? And we're going to really get a little intense. Now you're going to tear a muscle because you're dehydrated and you're going to pull something. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense for us to not prioritize the two things that are free.
And it's also, just so super important at regulating your body temperature too, hydration status. So you want to make sure that that's something you're looking after. Body temperature has an impact on so many variables, so many physiological functions. So realistically, hydration, it's like one of the easiest things you can be doing. Set an alarm on your phone, make sure you're actually having, constant fluid, sipping fluid throughout the course of the day. So I always say, if you can be having like a 600 ml bottle, 500 ml or 600 ml bottle, like every hour across the course of the hour, it doesn't mean going and sculling it, but sipping on it and just being aware that you're actually having that frequent, intake. But one of the other things that you might want to look at too is the fact that you might not also be absorbing the fluid that you're consuming. So you might be having a situation where, you're requiring electrolytes or sodium because you might be low in sodium and therefore not actually even getting the benefit of the fluid you're drinking. So if you are that person that's constantly drinking, always feels thirsty, has gallons of water a day, but you're pissing like you're leaking more than the Titanic, right? Then it's probably
clear here.
Probably a sign that perhaps we need to include some electrolytes, and that you probably could benefit from having a sports drink. Especially depending.
I always resort to like a 0-calorie sports drink. Like I'll go to like a Powerade Zero or like a Gatorade Zero. Exactly. In the States, like it's very common to have it at all the stores.
There's options. no matter what phase you're in, right? Dieting or not, there's options for you. You can still get your electrolytes in. And, you know, it might even be like, I have at times been in a situation where I've had to wake and have an electrolyte powder first thing in the morning to actually set my body up for absorbing water better. And I consume a lot of fluid, but at various times, depending upon what's going on with my, you know, stomach acid and then sodium levels, I can actually not get the benefit of everything that I'm consuming. So that is a real thing. And I would 100%
so true
about this.
Yeah. And then so what you're listening here is like drinking water, and actually just drinking water doesn't actually hydrate you 100% if you have imbalances in your sodium and potassium levels. If you actually are just drinking the water and not actually, let's say, having those amino acids or electrolytes consistently in your system, you're most likely going to have that cotton mouth, that dehydration feeling of maybe muscle cramps, like just feeling thirsty in general. And I feel like that is a common symptom like that we get. I mean, I just experienced this just from elevation. I mean, I was literally just going from state to state, and the elevation going up and down into different mountains and going up in the air even just caused for me, again, my body started feeling a little more dehydrated, and it was because I wasn't having the right sodium levels as well. And for me, I do kind of struggle with those imbalances of sodium at times because of my foods maybe not staying consistently with the sodium levels that, you know, of course my body requires, and it does affect my training. So for me, it's actually really, really regular for me to have an intra-workout carb, which normally has like pink Himalayan salt, coconut powder. It actually has the electrolytes. I do this one by Raw because it's a very, very awesome formula that they've put together. And for me, it just keeps that regularity of sodium and electrolytes balanced in my system. And I don't have those dips or any areas, or I don't know, areas of the day or of the week where I feel like, again, dehydrated, and it does affect my performance.
And I think the fact that you just said Himalayan rock salt just then was fantastic, because that's actually something I get my clients to do, is just to add a pinch of rock salt or Himalayan rock salt to, or even sea salt, to their water first thing in the morning. So room temperature water, first glass you have, add a pinch of salt. That's another way to make sure you're actually absorbing your water. The other thing that you can be doing to stay super hydrated, if you're someone that is a complete weirdo that doesn't like water, and trust me, there are a few of those.
I used to be that weird.
Have your high watery food items. There are a lot of food items, and we do get some fluid and some water from the food we consume, depending on what you're eating and what your diet looks like. So, you know, start thinking about having those sorts of high hydrating
yummy watermelon and some yummy cucumbers and
because there are definitely a lot of them. I love my watermelon. I'm mad about
so good.
Watermelon. So, you know, there are options there. So if you are someone that prefer to have, you know, a little bit less fluid in a beverage, then you can be looking at the fluid content of your food and making sure that the choices you make.
I think everyone's gonna just go ahead straight to go get a sports drink, because I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this, you're probably going to prefer a sports drink, which why not? I mean, I literally have my fridge stocked up with some Powerade Zeros for the go, and they're just so essential because you at least are able to keep that in again regularly. If you need a little just extra pick me up as well, because those electrolytes, believe it or not, will help boost that energy because you actually are staying more hydrated. So watch that hydration, watch that sleep. And I think our next one here that we're actually going to go into is the one that Ali was doing as one of her therapies.
So this one is like, oh man, it's a power play. It's honestly so good at reducing inflammation and soreness. But it is one that is a cost. So if you can do it without having it be a cost, and that's actually just initiating it in your own home with a cold shower. So you can actually do, and you might have, anyone that's ever followed
cold water therapy
is going to have seen the cold shower, the breathing, like that stuff is legitimately a thing. It's not woohoo. It's actually, you know, it actually substantially works. And there is literature and evidence to back it up. But you can have cold-based showers. They recommend actually doing them first thing in the morning. So, you know, you get that hit there's adrenaline, it sets you up for the day. It actually, like, there's a whole myriad of physiological benefits to it. So first thing in the morning is the time frame where you want to be having the cold. And then last thing at night is when you actually want to be having a hot shower. And that has positive benefits to actually get you into a better sleep cycle. So if we're going to be looking at it from a cost benefit point of view, and we're still keeping the things that are low cost, don't cost much, you could literally be doing a cold therapy by having cold showers for 3 minutes.
Cold tub and add some ice on top of
or
that.
Or you can put ice in your bathtub, right? You can put ice
put it in a tub, fill it up with cold water, and add that ice, and you are going to be shivering, and you're going to be praying to God that literally get you out.
I was literally going to invest in, and the only reason I haven't done it yet is because I've just got this new membership facility. And it actually has the contrast therapy in it. So it actually has the hot and the cold plunge pool. It has my infrared sauna. It has my red light therapy. It has my cryotherapy. It has everything in this center. So part of my membership has access to this. So I'm no longer going to buy it, but I was actually researching and going to buy myself a big ice bath that was going to sit on my back deck that I was going to get in.
I just saw one, so totally, it's very common here. But look, for me, I went with the cryotherapy sessions just because I just
they're amazing,
very fast. Like, I'm just a wimp when it comes to the cold. I just finished telling you guys I hate the cold. So
I absolutely love cryotherapy for
mental. Like, to be honest,
I love these cold injury management. Don't you?
Yeah. I mean, if you really think of it like that, I guess. I mean, you're changing my perspective here, but I just suffer in the aspect of, oh my God, get me through this. Dear God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, just get me through this. And it's just one of those things, though. I feel like it is those mental battles that you have to overcome, mind over matter, right? Like, it's just telling your mind it doesn't matter what you're going through, even though your body is suffering and it's just extremely, extremely cold and shivering. But the reaction, the aftermath, your body does undergo some therapeutic. How do I even say it, guys? I can't say it.
Therapeutic benefits. So you basically are guaranteed to reduce inflammation, increase circulation, and basically promote healing inside of the body, right? So
you feel it once your body gets out of the cold. When you're getting out of the cold, it's just kind of like it just kind of like starts warming up back to its normal temperature. Because I mean, it goes into this like shock mode. I mean, you're practically putting your body in a state where you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be like actually hibernating, and I guess in essence, like you're like, oh my God, I'm shutting down. But in reality, it's actually going down into a state of recovery, which is quite amazing.
Well, it actually it's actually so beneficial. And I guess, we see a lot of people using it here in Australia as form of spiritual therapy. So where they're actually breaking down barriers, they're working through mental states, they're improving mental health with it. We've got these camps here in Queensland that are like, oh God, what are they called? They're called the men's and the women's walk. And so basically it's these big spiritual internal release mechanisms, a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation, and pivots around this contrast therapy. So this big plunge into the cold water type, situations. So there are a myriad of benefits to it, right? And the way that I approach it at the moment with the facility that I'm in is by using a 38-degree warm pool and an 8-degree cold pool, right? So I will go and hop into the sauna first. I'm in there for 10 to 15 minutes. That helps to basically increase circulation and loosen everything up. I then jump immediately into the 8-degree cold pool. That's 8 degrees Celsius for everyone in the States. And you submerge your entire body. I'm talking like absolutely freaking everything. And in the first round of 3 minutes, because I'm in there for 3 minutes, I've got my timer on. I find the first round, it's a bit of a slap in the face, but it's not yet as like, what the fuck am I doing moment until you get to round 3. And by round 3 for me, I'm legitimately shaking. Like my toes are going, my hands are going, I'm like, but it somehow mentally gets easier. Even though your body's having all these reactions, for me anyway, this is how it feels for me, it somehow mentally gets easier. So after I've been in there for 3 minutes, right, I get up, get out, jump straight into the 38-degree pool. And one of the things that you'll notice when you go from this cold, this intense cold into the hot, is this tingling sensation. So, you know, blood flow gets restricted and constricted, and then all of a sudden the blood flow is just like, and then you're 3 minutes in there, the heat goes for like 10 seconds. It goes so fast. You're like, before you know it, oh my God, I've got to get back in that thing again. And you're up and you're back into the 8 degrees Celsius again. So the warm water basically will increase circulation and promote relaxation, but it doesn't last for very long because you feel like you've been in there for 10 seconds and you're back in that slap you in the face feeling again. And I do that 3 times. Now, depending upon what I'm trying to get out of the session will depend on which pool I leave last. So on the week just gone, on the session that I did that was really about trying to help this back, I actually exited in the warm pool. But usually, and especially when Jacinta and I go, because we're psychopaths, we will always exit on the cold pool. You do not have a warm shower. You just go and towel dry and get straight into your clothes. And you literally can feel yourself cold, all your extremities cold for the next, it's a couple of hours. I reckon it takes me about a couple of hours to feel warmth down through to like all of my extremities and digits. But it is liberating. It is completely empowering. It is,
like listening to you, like
mental resilience. But I can't express enough. When I walked out of it on Tuesday, I was like, holy crap, my back feels so free. And I went from thinking, oh my God, I've done something I'm probably not going to be able to lift for a week, to going straight into a glute session, full dominant glute session with RDLs on the Wednesday. I did it on the Monday. I did my contrast therapy Tuesday. So it's powerful. I recommend
obviously it worked.
Definitely need to get on it. But give it a go.
But you did suffer. Come on, don't lie. You totally suffered.
Oh my God,
no.
Nah, it's a kick in the sea next Tuesday, man. It's like, it's a big boot. It is a big boot.
Trust me 100%. When I say my recovery thing and mine is next year, is your route is an extremity for you and mine is, I guess, an extremity for me, but I would take mine in a heartbeat over yours.
Cryotherapy, for anyone listening, you're in like an actual full-blown chamber where it's like sub 0 degrees. It's intense, but it's only for like 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'll take mine
and you're usually wearing like gloves and socks and all.
I put the gloves on, you know, and then I just put on the socks. I mean, you go in naked technically, but it's just like you are under just your neck. It's just, you're not supposed to essentially go with your head in there, and you just go as long as you can. I remember my first time, I only lasted like 30 seconds. And then I just kept getting better and better from 30 seconds up to a minute, then from a minute to a minute 20. And then I remember thinking I'll never break a minute 20. And then from a minute 20, it was like a minute 30. I'm like, gosh, I can't believe I can't get to 2 minutes. And then, once you get up to that 3 minute mark, I mean, you experience those same things that you were talking about, but they're just so much quicker. And I guess it's just some condensed time frame. So I'm not like living in that misery. It's just like it snaps right back out once you get out of the cryo and you put your clothes back on. I definitely don't take 2 hours to get warm again, but it does take a little bit of time to get your circulation back the same way that it would have if you left a hot therapy. So I agree with that. And I feel like for me, my absolute favorite recovery tool, and I call this a tool because everyone's so different with their approach with this, and every therapist is extremely different. I've just worked with so many, and I'm sure you relate. Like, you just have to kind of find what therapy for massage therapy works for you as an individual, because not every massage therapist out there will be for you. So for me, I have found my person, and I've been able to, actually dig into these areas, and I've had horrible injuries and imbalances these last couple years, specifically this last year, where I've, of course, even with my foot then started causing a lot of just ripple effect for me up the leg. So then it was my hip, and then from my hip to my lower back to now my shoulder. So it just like causes all on, of course, the side of my foot that is injured and has the stress fracture. So again, my recovery has been quite shit because I've had to regress a lot of the intensity of my training to try to, you know, of course, improve these imbalances and tender to these injuries. And because of that, there's been some times I go a little bit more than what I've been doing. And that causes those DOMs, that extra soreness. My body's not recovering as good because I haven't been doing the things that it was used to. So now when I take maybe a few weeks off of a movement and I haven't been doing maybe the hinge or the squat and that, you know, variation, I definitely feel the DOMs and I'm not able to really actually recover as properly as I, you know, would like. So with my therapist, I'm able to have her dig in and do these, you know, of course, sessions where she uses her elbow, y'all. Like she doesn't even use tools. She doesn't use her hands. She just uses her elbows and she digs in like every muscle and just releases every little insertion and muscle from each other. So for me, it is a painful session. I actually kind of have anxiety builds up, to be honest, leading into her sessions. I like have like this big, like, I don't know.
Like, you know, you need it, but you know, you're going to hate every second of it.
Oh, yo, I kicked her this last time. I accidentally, obviously, I didn't mean to. I mean, my body just did that. I didn't mean to do that. I'm so
my
sorry.
body just did that. I swear to God, my brain was not associated.
I mean, I didn't mean to kick her, but my body, she hit some nerves. And I was like, So it definitely was, again, one of those things that I know I need. And so if I don't do it, I only not just get worse within my imbalances, but then I get re-injured. Then another injury comes up and then I flare it up. And it's just such a frustrating, right? Circle and path to just continue doing, because I'm sure anyone listening has maybe been there. They just kind of like maybe get a little bit better and then they just go right back in and doing the same thing. It's like insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and not learning from your mistakes and obviously from what we should be maybe doing, even if it feels like it's not enough, because that's where I kind of feel that's been my struggle. It's like you feel like your body needs to do more, or you feel like your body needs to exert a little bit more because that's how you like to feel. You like that endorphin rush. Maybe you like that stimulation. And then you don't really work on the mobility, on the recovery side, on maybe foam rolling, on maybe the massages, on maybe the cold therapy, or maybe even sleep or hydration and all these things. So these are just kind of like putting it all together for me. I feel like this is like my glue that helps me with my recovery the
with
most.
Massage for me, like I've always found, and this is probably systemic from my back injury, because I get chronic spasm states, that massage doesn't actually work unless I have needles first. So manual therapy and manual tissue therapy only works once I have had a complete release of the chronic state of spasm from a needle first. So I go in for, so everyone listening to this, when I'm in prep, and I'm actually going through to stage, and it's what I call part of my rig repair therapy. So my rig repair is like taking my vehicle, which is my physique, to get a service every week. So basically I go to osteo and chiro, and they will manipulate, manually release, do some soft tissue release and crack me every week from like 14 weeks out. I have a standing weekly appointment. I have those instead of massage because for me, the massage in and of itself doesn't work. However, when I'm in my off season, I have massage, and I have massage as a proactive once a month thing where it doesn't have to be weekly anymore because the, demands of the workload aren't quite as high, but the demands of the sessions and the intensity and the progressive loading is. So I still need it, but it's in a different format. And I will tend to typically go to my osteo or chiro once in the month, and then a massage therapist at a later point in the month for a second tune-up. And I find that after I've had the needling, the massage actually works. So Steph is so right. Finding a masseuse is like finding a colonic irrigation specialist. You've got to find someone that you mesh with, vibe with, can literally beat the shit out of you in a good way, and you will happily let them do it, right?
Oh, so, and that's the thing though, Ali, without them hurting you, without them bruising you, without actually them doing maybe not enough, because let me tell you, some people are like, what did you even do?
Oh my God, where they do spirit fingers and they're these fluffy like butterflies.
Just like, I'm not trying to get scratched,
dude.
I'm not trying to get a
not
tickle,
here for a tickle,
right? Like, I'm not exactly. I need you to put me in pain. And I'm sorry, that sounds pretty crazy here, but I need you to put me in a bowl, and I need to kind of hate you. Otherwise, you're not doing what you should be doing. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't make my body like twitch and do things that normally I would not do to myself, then I don't need you, because I need someone that's actually not only knowledgeable enough to be able to dig into these areas, but actually is able to separate the muscles. How many muscles of ours, as we break them down, repair back together, and they just love to connect. They love to adhere together. So let's say the neighbors, I just like putting our muscles there as like little neighbors. Whatever muscle group is neighboring the other, as we break them down, it's just natural for them to want to repair the muscle tissues back together with the neighbor. Okay, so those lines and insertions and separations need to be separated. And this is one of the things that for me, I neglected for so long in the past. So it just created a lot of knots, extra adhesions, and I just has created a little bit more scar tissue in some areas around some joints that I have pain, maybe some joint pain, or maybe knee pain. And these are things that I just thought I had to deal with, honestly. In the past, I thought it was just part of training. I'm like, I've just done so many sports in my life. Like, it's just my knees are just going to be bad for the rest of my life. But it's not the case. It was just the fact that I had just such tight, honestly, muscles around my joints. The ligaments were extremely tight to the point where I was just starting to really, really have pain around the muscles, and I was needing to have better recovery, and this all brought it together. So if anyone listening to this is maybe feeling or struggling with these areas, maybe having some of the symptoms I'm having or have had, or maybe an Ali's scenario, maybe it doesn't work for you. Maybe you've seen every masseuse, all the therapists, and maybe the hands-on isn't working. Maybe try out doing the
maybe you're someone that just doesn't even like to have someone touch you, because I've got clients like that. And that would probably lead me into another cost-effective alternative would be, your own mobility work. So your own stretching, triggering, your own, focus on doing these sessions that are going to create more length and more flexibility to the tissue, right? But it's an unpopular opinion for some people, but it's what the literature shows, is that you shouldn't be doing this stretching right before your session, because it actually removes a lot of the benefit from the session itself. So you're going to get less of a session and less of a benefit from that session if you do this stretching right before your session. So what I always suggest to clients is that pre-session, there should be dynamic warm-ups. Absolutely. Definitely. Yes. You should have movement pattern-based warm-ups for sure, and primers, but you shouldn't be doing extensive long holding stretching sessions.
No static stretching for sure. No.
Not conducive to achieve what you want to achieve from the session you're about to invest your time and energy into. So I always say to clients that it's best to set these, sessions up for yourself away from your training, and ideally even do them in the evening before bedtime, or do them first thing in the morning and your training's at night. Like, think about where your training is placed in the day and position it elsewhere. And then, you might not need to do them every day. You might have, say, 3 or 4 designated days of the week where you spend 20 minutes on it, right? And it can be a series of stretches and a series of triggering and mobility based movement patterns that are going to open up specific parts of the body. So if you're someone that leads quite a sedentary, quite a sedentary lifestyle, you're sitting all the time, you're in an office, then you're going to be wanting to open up through the front of the house. So making sure that you're doing your couch stretches and you're doing all the stuff that's going to release your quads and your psoas, right? Just as an example. And I would definitely suggest that if you are someone that doesn't have access to, or finances are a problem for you, that you are incorporating this sort of thing into your routine. It really does improve, circulation. It reduces, muscular soreness and tension. It 100% prevents having joint-based issues that Steph has sort of talked about. Look, I think looking at having a foam roller in your house, looking at having a broomstick is a great one for jabbing into, pec, delts, into the, I've even used a kettlebell into my groin. Like you can literally mix this shit up. I've used a kettlebell into my adductor. Like there are so many ways to trigger yourself utilizing,
right? Like there's little hand tools nowadays that everyone can have.
Exactly.
Like it's just about finding the areas. And I love that you pinpointed the sedentary lifestyle for a lot of workers is you're in front of the computer or just sitting for long periods of time. And if you're not doing some hip mobility drills, you're going to have training affected. Even if you're not having recovery issues, you're going to get that joint aftermath, or you're just not going to be able to activate some of these muscle groups as good as you possibly could. So doing even like mobility drills for those hips, or even like having a little time that it just opens up your body and gets blood flow increase into your body. So like doing like a 5-minute little, stretching session away. I totally agree with Ali there. I absolutely loathe seeing people doing so much static stretching right before their session, because it isn't beneficial. It's actually going to impede that actual stimulation of that muscle group. So more dynamic, definitely, as well as trying to, for me, my mobility drills, if I'm trying to really trigger point or maybe attack a certain area, like a piriformis, that's kind of like pesky to get into, and you've got to kind of like really, really dig into the foam roller or into a lacrosse ball. I like to do those sessions as a primer the night before a leg session. Yeah. So the before bed, exactly. So I was going to fall it into that kind of time frame when Ali brought it up. I'm like, yep, exactly. I like to do mine. If I know I'm legs there tomorrow, tonight, I'm going to prime my legs up. I'm going to release them. I'm going to kind of find those little knacks and, knots that I might have around my abductor. I might have in my adductor, my groin, or maybe release my psoas a little bit more aggressively than I would have on the day of. So then that way I can go to bed, I can sleep, make sure I stay hydrated. I actually make it a very big point to make sure that my water intake the night before, and hear this, the night before I go to sleep for my next leg day, I'm extremely well hydrated, because what do we do when we go to bed? We fast, we deplete the body. What do? We go to pee, and it just dehydrates the system. So I don't want to wake up the next day and have to like chug a whole bunch to feel hydrated. So I do my mobility and priming work, and then I am improving again my hydration by trying to just prioritize it, and I go to bed, and then I have a really nice good meal. I'm one of those people that I don't personally, and Ali has made me do this before, by the way, I don't like training fasted. Okay, y'all. I'm not a big fasted, workout individual. I like to have at least 1 or 2 meals if I'm going to have a big session. This is ideal. That doesn't mean that I can't go with maybe no food or a meal in me before a workout. It's just a preference for me to have at least 1 or 2 meals before, a big lift.
Yeah.
So that just kind of walks you through for me kind of how I, set myself up with that, because I do love the fact that this is going to keep us not just improving our recovery, but improving our range of motion, our muscle stimulation, and of course, we're just going to improve our strength as well.
And look, stretching helps to break up the fascia adhesions, right? So your fascia is like, the analogy I always give everyone is that your fascia is the capsule that basically sits and supports, your muscles. So your muscles sit inside of it, right? It's like the sheath that wraps over it. And when it gets really tight, this is how I like to visualize it. It's like having food inside of a Tupperware container, and you're trying to put the lid on and you're trying to grow the muscle, hence put more food inside that Tupperware container. You're trying to crack this lid on and it's so tight, it's not going anywhere and it's like spilling out the edges and you can't put the lid on and then you can't physically fit anything more in there. So really tight fascia, you can start to see, might limit and inhibit muscular growth, right?
100%.
So what we want fascia to look like is super soft and supple, like Glad Wrap. So we
exactly saran wrap, like a little bit, you know, like that.
And you can keep putting more and more stuff inside that Glad Wrap and keep expanding it, wrap it up and cover everything up, and you're not going to have any issues or restrictions, right? So the interesting thing about fascia is that fascia actually takes like 2 minutes minimum to start to release. So it's not like a dynamic stretching
stimulation of the blood flow, right?
You can get a benefit from, right? So for me personally, I do not stretch. I do yin yoga. And everyone that follows me and has followed me for years would have seen that I am the biggest advocate and guru for this particular practice of yoga that probably has ever come. I have a private session at home and then I will attend class. So when I'm in prep, again, coming back to the variations of frequency for me to tap into some of these things depends upon workload and nutrient absence. So when I'm in a prep process and I have the absence of calories, the absence of nutrients to support repair and recovery, and then also an increase in workload, what am I going to need? A lot more hands-on, a lot more external recovery hacks. So I tap into a lot of these things. And when I'm in that phase, I try to do yoga 2 to 3 times a week. When I'm in the off season, I will probably go once a week, right? So it just shows you the frequency of what you need. If I start feeling tight, or if I start feeling mobility lagging, or I start feeling like things hinging in a squat, or I've got weight displacement, or I'm shifting to a hip or not, I immediately know, okay, it's time for me to go do yin. Now, the benefits of yin is you move into a singular pose and you hold it for 3 to 5 minutes. And what I just say about fascia, fascia takes 2 minutes to release. So you will literally work from the feet up. Every major joint, every major muscle gets supported in this practice, and you will walk out feeling like Gumby. Lucy,
you can balance in a tree
pose, plastic, all arms and limbs nice and long, right?
Oh no, it's so true what you're saying though. Like it's the stimulation of the balancing, the actual joints needing to, you know, obviously be worked a little bit differently. Your body adapts to all those movements that you're putting it through. The squatting, the hinging, right? Like the lunging, everything that you're doing in the pulling, the pressing. I mean, God, all of it, your joints and your muscles, they adapt to that pattern of movement. And if you don't do movements that are very different, like this yin yoga actually kind of provides for you, or in my situation, like, let me tell y'all, I suck at stretching. Like I'm going to be preaching to the choir here if I freaking tell y'all that I stretch because I don't stretch. Okay. Like that is probably my biggest downfall. And I actually have somebody stretch me. I mean, that sounds silly,
100%. Babe, whenever I'm in the States, I go to Stretch Lab like a fiend.
There's called stretch zones.
I'm like lining up the minute they open their doors in the morning. I'm like, just fucking stretch me, people.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I just suck at it. I suck. I absolutely suck. I will call that out and I will tell y'all I don't, because I would be lying. So I literally have to force a session, and I maybe don't do it as often as I should. I mean, I try to get in there at least every other week, because again, realistically, I try to do things weekly and it just doesn't fit my schedule. Like it just doesn't work. And I know I'll then end up getting backed up. So if I'm able to do at least once or twice a month, I'm happy, you know, because I'm better. I'm better than I was before. And
you're at least still doing something, right? Which is better than nothing.
I'm trying to do something about it.
This is cool for everyone listening to this, because they're hearing, you know, 2 very different approaches to it, but they're also hearing us be very honest about the fact that, hey, look, you know, these things are great for you. They work for some people. We program them for some people, but they're not for us. And this is why, but this is what we do instead. We don't do nothing. We don't let it go, and we don't ignore that we need it. We understand our limitations and we work to the confinement that we have to get the job
like, I
done,
wish I was flexible.
Exactly.
I mean, trust me, I always think this. I'm like, man, if I only put a little more effort in it, and this is the truth though, this is reality. If I put a little more effort into stretching, I would probably be more flexible. So I think this goes hand in hand. If I really wanted it bad enough, wouldn't I do it? Right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that if we're really being real,
but it's not as important.
But it's not a priority for me, right? I'm like, back burner, next, right? And I think if anyone relates here, it's really more about trying to put it on that totem pole. And I mean, yes, it's maybe not at the top for me, but I haven't brushed it off my totem pole. Like I haven't completely neglected it. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just not maybe doing something as much as I could, but it's still progress, because trust me, before I couldn't do much with my flexibility, and like even trying to just do a simple touching your toes, like without actually arching the back, right? Or actually feeling like you're having that stress and pressure on your lower back, or your hamstrings aren't actually, you know, flexible enough. And this is very common from tight calves. If you're listening to this and having like maybe those flexibility issues, if it's not the hips, it's your calves, it's your Achilles, calves, your ankles, because we walk on them all day, every day. And if you are someone like Ali and I that have had to wear heels in our past, or maybe had to do it because of work, then you're going to also have that probably constriction in your ankles, or maybe your Achilles will end up having some adhesion, same thing, some scar tissue, and calves need to be released. And again, this is across the board. I feel like for anyone that's just needing to address some of these areas, maybe just start with something simple like the lacrosse ball on your feet, just starting with the ball of your feet, maybe doing a couple hand tools, maybe at your hips, doing 90-90 hip switches, being able to just kind of do some dynamic work a little bit here and there before your session. That's already progress. That's already improvement. So if you aren't doing anything, 100%. Adding in just some dynamic work, or maybe a couple 5-minute drills, like Ali is saying, maybe with some yoga a couple times a week, all of that will lead you in the right direction to continue improving your recovery and just improve overall well-being.
And I'm someone who is, people always say, how do you get everything done? Like, how do you possibly manage everything? Well, you know what? I'm like a multiple ducks in a row all at once type person, right? So I don't stretch, but I go to yoga, and yoga not only does the benefit of the stretching, but it also works on my mental health, and it stimulates my parasympathetic nervous system. So the other side to recovery, and one of the things that we see, you know, a lot, is that stress, inability to manage stress, inability to process emotion, inability to breathe deeply, diaphragmatically, not shallowly, inability to take present, engaged moments rather than being, you know, stuck in the future with anxiety-based states, in a constant flux of fight or flight. That's all part of reduction in recovery, reduction in lean tissue development, reduction in body fat loss rates, right? So whatever your goal is, whether you're off season, on season, mental health and or stress management and or anxiety management is a massive key to your overall recovery and results being achieved. So for me, I actually do 3 birds with 1 stone, and I hit the yoga for my stretch. I do it for my mental health. I also do it as part of my parasympathetic nervous system. And guess what? I also do it as my active recovery day. So I put it on my day that is not linked to my weights. And it is 100% something that still has me flowing and moving, not working my yang. It's working my yin. It is my parasympathetic rest and digest system that is activated whilst doing it. So I'm not smashing myself with ridiculous amounts of cardio and all this, you know, obscenely excessive levels of, you know, output, because that's another key to recovery. And that's something that I want everyone listening to this to take home. If you are failing to recover, there's 2 things I want you to do. First and foremost, am I overtraining? Be very honest with yourself. How much am I doing? Am I having adequate rest days? Am I under fueling? And is my energy availability excessively low and or even just conservatively low? Because sometimes even a conservative low level of energy availability will significantly reduce sometimes recovery. So I just wanted to end it by saying that we've given you some really good take homes today and a lot of options that are no cost to very low cost. And one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people fail to, recognize and look at when they're actually saying, hey, I'm not recovering. Hey, this is going wrong. Hey, that's going wrong. I think I need to deload. I would probably first and foremost go, where's my food at? What's my nutrition at? Where's my nutrition at? What's my nutrient availability like? Like, am I underfueling, overtraining? Am I chronically dieting? And without any need to, AKA you do not have a stage to step on? What are you
yeah, you definitely don't need to be in a deficit if there's no stage around the corner.
Exactly. Mm-mm. Am I fueling for the demands of the training session at hand would be my number one question to myself. Exactly. Am I adequately hydrating? Am I adequately resting? Am I focused on my sleep? Am I looking after my rig? Do I get my rig serviced? Am I taking my vehicle for a maintenance tune-up? And am I looking after the mental health, the driver at the wheel? Is he or she sane? Because they are actually actively looking after.
Are you sleeping? Are you shitting? Because I'm being honest, like, this is a legitimate question.
You need a colonic.
You are not.
Do you need some water? Do you want a bottle? Maybe go take a shit.
I'm being 100% real with y'all, because if you're not asking yourselves these questions, if you haven't gone to the bathroom, if you have not slept well, if you haven't ate your food, if you have not drank your water, those 4 things right there.
You're a big plant. You need sunlight, food, water. It's pretty simple.
And it is, and we don't treat ourselves that way, Ali. As much as we keep saying, like, this is pretty basic, y'all. We're giving you pretty good information. We're giving you technically the basics here, but
stuff that people don't do.
Neglect it. We don't do it.
Stuff people don't focus on. I think by us having conversation around it and reiterating the importance and the effectiveness of these things, hopefully, fingers crossed, people listening to this will start taking some action towards the small low-lying fruit that they can pull on each day to significantly improve their freaking outcomes. Like, why continue to flog a dead horse? People don't do that. Feed your horse, make it well. Like, what the hell?
I love what you had said, Ali, just to wrap that up about, I feel like a lot of us are always just trying to do more. And instead, we don't look at these other more things. Have we done these things? Everything we talked about on today's episode, are we nailing them? If you are nailing these things, then definitely assessing the food and the training load. And if you're one of those that has maybe struggled with just feeling like you need to always do something and you're training too much, adding in that 1 or 2 days of active recovery is so needed, and your body will definitely feel like it's training because you're still stimulating it. It's not actually being trained. It's actually that have passive active recovery that it's going to allow you to really truly have, like Ali said, a decompression of the mind and the body. So it's kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and really having a little allotted time to maybe have therapy for yourself, because that's what I, really channel my training as much as hey, not all the time do Ali and I want to show up, but guess what? It's part of our schedule. It's part of our routine, and we show up, because it's for us, and it's therapy. And it's a therapy that I will never negotiate and I will never replace with anything else. And it's going to look a little different from day to day, because not every day are we going to maybe be fully recovered. Maybe we don't have the best sleep. Maybe we don't have the best food. So we might have to kind of navigate ourselves to kind of listen to our bodies and maybe have that active rest recovery. Instead, if you had one of those shit days the night before, bad sleep, didn't really eat well, and you're just already going into your session, and you tell, Ali or I, as your coaches, you're like, hey, I had to move my training day. I had horrible sleep. I didn't eat. I haven't even shit. Don't you think we're going to be like, good call, right? Good call. I'm glad you moved your training day to the next day, because otherwise you're going to perform pretty shitty.
And so what we're going to say is, go have a cold shower, 3 minutes, take a walk in direct sunlight, hydrate like a mofo, pretend you're a goldfish, eat your damn food, and go and do yin. That's where we're at.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a wrap. I mean, literally. So it's so true. And I hope you guys were able to kind of take some notes here. We're being as real as we possibly can. This is reality. This is what she does. This is what I do. This is how we coach. This is how we have all our clients following these protocols. I really hope that you're actually trying to do these free things before you're trying to just buy this supplement and buy this and trying to buy all these other things and, you know, all these other therapies that you might be getting sold on. Do the bare minimum, which is what we, you know, spoke on today. Do the free things. And then if we maybe have a little extra and you're able to maybe add in like massage therapist, or maybe doing some of like the contrast therapy, or, you know, like doing some other stuff that does help with recovery. But hey, most of the stuff and some of the best stuff in life is pretty free.
Exactly. So everyone, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's actually reached out with conversations, questions, just even tagged us in stuff about the colonics. I am super proud to say,
such a hot topic. Oh my God.
A little proud colonic, you know, go take a shit type person here. That so many people have actually listened and jumped on board. I've even had people reach out and say they're dragging their husband. It's so cool. So thank you so much for that support. We would love to see you share that episode with friends, family, anyone that you think would benefit from it, you know, and continue to share with us your stories, you know, tell us all about how your experience was. Definitely reach out if you've got any questions. And then likewise for today, anyone that you know is struggling with recovery, anyone you know needs to hear the confirmation that some of these small, basic, low-lying fruits are actually the, you know, gateway to some pretty amazing results. Share this episode with them. And again, you know, we really value your support and your feedback. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to see you, you know, give us a share, give us a like, leave us a review. And we hope you enjoyed today's session.
Thank you, everyone. And until next time, you guys stay blessed and stay positive.
See you, babe.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Queen Divas Pod, on Twitter at Queen Divas 4, and follow our hosts on Instagram, Alicia at Alicia Gowans _WBFF Pro, and Steph at Stephanie Ayala 7. See you all next week.